welcome to this week's episode of Cake Corner. Thank you to everyone who voted in this week's poll. There was one clear winner and that was autumnal scones. Today we are going to be making just that, spiced scones with apple and raspberry jam. So let's get started. Okay, first things first, we need to preheat the oven. We're going to pop it on to 200 degrees and let that preheat while we make our scones. First things first, we're going to sift our flour into our bowl. It's 225 grams of self-raising flour, and you just want to make sure you sift it so you get all the lumps out. Next thing, we're going to combine our flour and our butter. So we're going to just gently 1-2 drop in our fingertips until it's completely combined. And it should look like breadcrumbs when it's all ready to go. Okay, so there we go. As you can see, it looks just like breadcrumbs. It's very fine, but there's no butter left unmixed in there. So we're ready for our next step. Alright, so next step is to add 4 tablespoons of caster sugar. Now I had a question in my last live video about what type of sugars to use, and if you wanted to use golden caster sugar in this, then you could. I'm just going to use plain caster sugar, as I find that the golden stuff tends to brown it, or it looks a lot browner in the oven, and then they end up being underbaked. So we're just going to use caster sugar for now, and the next thing to add is a little bit of mixed spice. If you don't like mixed spice for whatever reason, you can put just one type of spice in on its own. So you might just want to put cinnamon in or nutmeg. I quite like them all together, and this is going to make the basis for our autumn scones. So there we go. I'm just going to very quickly mix that together, and then we're going to get our apple ready. Next, we need to prepare our cooking apple ready for the oven. So I've got a chopping mat, my knife and my peeler. So we're just going to take all the skin off this apple, as that's not very nice to eat. And then we're going to dice it into small chunks, ready to mix in with our scones. You've got to be careful when adding fresh fruit to anything, because obviously it's got a high water content. So although your pastry might look a little bit dry when it goes in the oven, it won't be, because the fruit will leak liquid out into it, and it should cook quite well. It's all ready to go now, so we're going to get our bowl and add it in. So it's just going to slide all of the apple into our bowl and gently mix it in. And the final ingredient to go in here is milk, but when we add the milk we've got to mix it very, very quickly, otherwise it goes very lumpy. Alright, this is the messy bit. So we're going to add 125 ml of milk, give it a quick stir with the spoon, and then we're going to go with our hands and give it a quick knead in the bowl. As you can see, it's a really wet mixture. So I'm going to clear the sides, flour it down, and then we're going to turn it out and knead it a little bit to make it a little bit smoother. Alrighty, so our flour is ready to go. So we're going to turn out this very sticky mixture. And don't worry, it is meant to be quite wet. Obviously you've got your flour on the side to combine it with, and the fruit, as we said earlier, does make it a little bit stickier. but once it's got a little bit of a knead, it should go a lot smoother than this. Okay, so as you can see, it's a lot more dough-like now. If you find that your mixture is a bit too wet, you can add flour. Just add it gradually, don't add too much in one go, otherwise you might find it dry out completely and then it will start to crack. So what we're going to do is gently push it out into a rough circle shape. There's no real finesse to this, it's just getting it a bit flat. And then what we're going to do is take a cutter of your choice. I am thinking of doing teeny tiny ones, but it's up to you. You can do like average size ones, you can do a really big one. Just keep in mind, obviously the bigger that you do it, the longer they're going to take to cook. So these little ones I imagine are only going to take about 15 minutes. So all we're going to do is pop a little bit of flour on the inside of our cutter, and that will help it to stop sticking as we push it through. And then we're just going to cut them out and pop them on a floured tray, and that means hopefully they won't stick in the oven either. So we're just going to push our cutter in, give it a little wiggle and bring it out very, very gently. Pop your scone out, and there we go. So it's diddy one. So basically you just keep going with your cutter all the way around until you run out of space, and then you just want to reform your ball, push it all out again and carry on cutting. Just try and make sure you get them all the same thickness, otherwise when they go in the oven they'll all cook unevenly, and you'll have some that are quite like burnt and some that are underdone. Right, so once they're done, they should look a little bit like this. All quite an even height, obviously the same kind of shape. So what we're going to do now is quickly wipe down our workbench and pop a little bit of milk on top of each one of these, so in the oven they go a really nice glazed golden brown. Okay, so our scones are all ready to go. The last thing we need to do is pop just a little bit of milk on to give them a glaze. I'm going to use my plastic brush, but it's up to you how you want to do it. You can just use a little teaspoon if you want. So we'll quickly just cover these and then we'll get them in the oven. Okay, so we're going to pop them in the oven now for between 10 to 15 minutes. You've got to keep a close eye on them, as because they're so little they can catch quite quickly. If you have slightly bigger scones and you have used a cutter this kind of size, they're probably going to need between 20 and 25 minutes. But again, I would put them on for half the time and then just check them through the oven door so you can see if they're ready or not. Right, let's pop them in. Okay, so our scones are out of the oven. As you can see, they're a lovely even colour. We've got a really good bake. So all I'm going to do now is transfer them onto a cooling rack and let them cool until they are completely stone cold, and then we'll be ready to make our jam. So making jam, a lot of people think it's a bit complicated. I've had a few people say things like, oh, don't you need a copper based pan, or doesn't it take hours? And we can have jam done in about 10 minutes. So we're going to be making raspberry jam today. So I have got a punnet of raspberries. I've weighed it out and it is 158 grams. So we're just going to pop that in our pan to start with. And the trick with jam is to mash your fruit down before you start cooking it. So we're going to do that now. Alright, so that's our raspberries mashed down. If you wanted seedless raspberries, we can do that at the end of making jam. All you need is a very thin muslin cloth and you pour the hot jam through the cloth and squeeze it through. But I quite like seedy jam, so I'm going to leave it as it is for today. The next thing that you need is a jam sugar. So I bought this one, a silver spoon jam sugar, but it's up to you which one you want to try. I find this one works best for me. So what you do is get the same amount of sugar as your amount of fruit. So I have 158 grams of fruit, so I'm going to add 158 grams of sugar. We're just going to pop it in and give it a stir. All we do now is heat it gently. So I'm going to put my hob on about 5, and I'm just going to keep occasionally stirring it, and we'll see it will start to kind of thicken up a little bit. You don't want it to boil though. If it boils, you've got your temperature on too high. We just want to heat it gently for now. So as I'm sure you can see, it's looking a lot more liquid now. So what we're going to do is just wait for all the sugar to dissolve, and then we're going to add a small amount of butter, and then we're going to bring it to a rolling boil. Okay, so this is ready for our butter now, so I'm literally just going to chuck a bit in and stir it through. And once the butter's all dissolved, we're going to turn the temperature up and bring it to a rolling boil. For those of you that don't know what a rolling boil is, all it is, it means that all the bubbles come up from the side and roll into the middle. Really, really simple. Okay, so I'm just going to start turning the temperature up now to really get that boil going. And when it has got a rolling boil and you cannot stir it down, we're then going to boil it for approximately 4 minutes, and then our jam should be ready. It really is that simple. Alright, so as you can see, it's just started to boil. So we're going to boil it now for 4 minutes and then take it straight off the heat. Okay, so our jam's been on the heat for 4 minutes. We're going to take it off the heat now and let it cool down slightly. You can keep this jam for quite a while if you have a sterile glass jar. Like a Kilner jar would do really good. I tend to make my jam fresh like on the day or the day before because it is so quick, and just pop it in a bowl with some cling film over the top in the fridge, but it's completely up to you. So I'm going to transfer this now and let it cool down, and then we can start putting our scones together.